Hey everybody, Robert Segers here. I'm one of the product managers at Sierra Interactive. I'm joined by Buddy Blake. He leads a Teamridge in Wilmington, North Carolina. And our special guest, Robby Trefethran, goes by Robby T. He's in Fargo, North Dakota, and he is official title lead geek. He's an ISA leader and coach, works with Hatch Coaching. Really great to be with you today, Robby.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Excited to be here with you guys.
Yeah, so, as we've evolved these webinars, Buddy, we've been meeting for a year and a half, doing various things, and now we're starting to bring in more guests. It's really exciting, especially with Robby. Buddy, I think you've known Robby for a little while, and I have as well. Robby's got a lot of interest around communicating with leads in a real and engaging way. So, Robby, I think, maybe you could say something like, you go off script if there ever was a script, right?
Yeah. For us, our script is throw the script out the window. It's probably our script.
Right.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So today we're going to talk about mastering the lead conversation, and that's going to take us any number of directions and ways we can go with it. But let's go ahead and just contextualize ourselves. It's the very beginning of December 2021. Right. We're well over a year and a half into a COVID-affected world. Buddy, we've talked various times around folks who are looking to buy, who needed to buy, have bought. Yeah. And there might be a little bit of buyer fatigue. We've had a scenario in which sellers have really been able to ask for prices that seem a little high. And maybe buyers, if they haven't had to make a move and haven't made a move, might be going through a little bit of fatigue. And then you've got the COVID stuff, and then you've got inflation, and then you've got the holidays coming up. And I'm just curious, maybe we can start with, what are the conversations that you all are having right now? What are those looking like with, let's start with buyers. What are they looking like?
Yeah, so I'm going to first name something that I firmly believe is, in our world, our conversations with buyers and sellers really, honestly, aren't that different.
Okay.
And here's why. This is just my fundamental belief when it comes to lead conversion is there isn't buyer leads, there isn't seller leads, they're just people. And human beings have motivations. And almost always, psychologically, we're driven, we're running from something, running towards something, or a combination of the two. And what we've always found is when we're talking to a buyer or seller, the conversations tend to be remarkably similar in that framework of we're trying to learn and trying to gain an understanding of what is it that somebody's running from? What are they running towards? And that's what we're trying to do. It's everything that we do in our messaging is always trying to get people to open up about their motivations, because I think all the what's in the world don't equal one powerful why. So you asked, some really good questions about, what are we seeing and how are we having conversations? And the reality is the main objection right now that we're hearing is very seasonal. And the funny thing is it just changes, right? It cycles through. You're going to start hearing early part of Q1, we're waiting till spring. And then when it's springtime, you're going to hear we're going to wait till summer. It's always 3 months later, right? They just change it. They change what I call the mental markers of what's next. And what I've learned is that there's this common phrase in real estate. And it's funny because I'm doing a lead conversion boot camp this month, and it was about an hour and a half ago. And I mentioned this, that a lot of people in real estate think that buyers are liars. It's one of the biggest things. We've heard it many times, Buddy. You've probably heard it, Robert. I know you have, where people think buyers are liars. And I don't think that, actually. I think that we tend to ask really poor questions, and we tend to make a lot of assumptions. And what it really comes down to is, I, as an ISA, in my mind, I'm trying to identify what is someone hoping to do. And my job as an ISA, or frankly, as their agents, is really to help them see things from different angles. So what we do is we do a lot of challenging. We push back, not saying, hey, buddy, you need to buy a house right now. That's funny saying buddy like that, like I'm talking to a buddy, but now I'm talking to you, buddy, as well. But saying that of, hey, you need to buy a house because interest rates are so low, now's a really great time. It's not selling somebody like that. It's saying something like, got it, buddy. I understand that you're saying you want to wait till after the new year to buy a home. So that's a big thing we're hearing right now, after the holidays, after New Year. I'll then followed up and asked, but help me understand this. If that ideal home were to get listed on the market in the next week, Is that something that you'd be willing to pass on, or would you want to maybe take a look at it? So in other words, what we're doing to handle things right now, when people, and we're just always cycling it, right? We're always handling it. We challenge it. We turn their objection into a question. That's one of the biggest things that we've learned to simply do, is take that objection and challenge it and help shift their thinking. And literally what you're doing is you're helping somebody look at the same problem from a different perspective. AKA, instead of it being 2D, it becomes 3-dimensional. So does that kind of make sense?
That's an interesting thing, because you're not like manipulating somebody into like, oh, I actually do want to buy. You're just getting behind the comment and just seeing like if that's really what's behind what's being said, right? Because if somebody says, yes, unfortunately, I would have to pass on it right now, that 3 months or more may very well be legitimate. But if they say, I absolutely would jump on it, well, then maybe you're seeing a little bit more, that there's a little bit more desire than what was stated.
And that's exactly it. Is almost always when you ask a question like that, they either clarify, like, no, I'd probably want to take a peek at it. And then you go into like, well, what would that ideal home need to look like? And now we're back to square one again. Or they justify the resistance. Now, one big thing that I'll just clearly state is, I don't think my job as an ISA is to set appointments. I don't think my job is to find closings. My job is to identify people. My true north is to find out people's truths, be a truth teller to them, which means sometimes walking through and telling them that unicorns don't exist, right? That Orkana is real, or that the house they want is fake news. There's a lot of that in this industry. And we've earned a lot of business by being truth tellers. It's one of the biggest things I've been hammering with a lot of the top ISAs I coach, is be a truth teller. It's so scary, but you earn so much credibility with people, because it's the opposite of selling, right? Especially when you're telling the truth. We don't need to. Like, we don't need to sell people. We don't need to push people. Our job is to help people reveal their truths and then help them make the best decision for themselves and their families. Like, that's our job. And if it happens to be that they're going to buy a home with us, awesome. That's really great. If it means that they're going to stay renting, awesome. If it means that they're going to stay where they're currently located, we'll support them 100%. But if you have an agenda behind it, like, no, I need this appointment, what happens is, in my opinion, you get sales breath and you don't see things clearly. When you're attached to the outcome, because that's really what I'm getting at here, is relinquishing the attachment to making the sale. Don't get me wrong, I want to, but I'm not attached to it. By doing so, I see things much more accurately. I see opportunities to learn more. So an objection doesn't scare me. It doesn't scare a lot of my people. An objection is simply just another angle to learn more information about, well, what does that mean? And I think information is power. I think truth is power. And really what it comes down to is, when you learn someone's truth and what's really motivating them, frankly, it becomes too easy to convert. Because I'm not trying to motivate you with some crap I think is going to motivate you. I know the lever to pull on that you've told me is the reason you want out of the current situation you're in. So there's our whole approach in 2 minutes.
Buddy, I know you spend a lot of time working with new agents. You have a passion for mentoring and coaching and getting people in the industry and succeeding. I'm curious. One of the words that came to mind as Robby was talking was curiosity. And I'm wondering, buddy, when you're working with new agents, even seasoned, experienced agents, how much of a role does curiosity play in being successful in real estate?
Well, I think curiosity and discovery is everything that there is. I mean, we use a very similar thing, and I think probably copied Robby's. I mean, we went from the other coaches over the years, they give you all these scripts and dialogues, but at the end of the day, pretty much if you ask anybody on the phone what's going on, you create an avenue for them to open up. Now, I'm a firm believer in that the first person to truly engage with somebody and be trusted advisor, because they're talking to a lot of people, they're getting communication from a lot of people. Whoever can build that in, and sometimes building that in is telling them what they don't want to hear, and also and not trying to trick them. And our industry's gotten into a lot of trick bait and trying to trick people into doing something that they don't really want to do. And I think the biggest struggle I have with any agents, new especially, is, listen, when you're new, we get paid by commission most cases. they need to make a sale in their head. And what we need to do is we got to get them out of that mindset of being the salesperson and trying to convert them to engaging with them and trying to be the top of mind person. Because what it's not like the old days when we didn't have internet. Somebody calls you up, I'm going to move in 60 days. There was a finite date. Now everybody's moving when X happens. The problem is we don't know what X is, and they don't know what X is, especially in the last year and a half. So I think you have to build a trusted relationship, and you also have to, like he was talking about some of the fake news, you have to dispel some of those myths. Like the consumer, one of the problems we're seeing now is in negotiations, sellers still think, in our market anyway, it's not everywhere, they still think every house has 50 offers on it. Well, and they're throwing, and they're insisting on, appraisal exclusions and all this stuff. And I'm like, that market sailed back in July and August in our world.
Yep.
And, right now you need to be having a conversation. Do you want to sell the house or not? And it's hard to get that because they're hearing that. They heard their friends who crushed somebody. They heard agents crush. And you still seeing agents out there on Facebook bragging about how much they got somebody to overpay for a property to get it. I'm hoping they take those posts down soon, because that's not going to look good on the other side of this market for there to be posts up there saying, hey, my realtor got me to pay 40 grand above asking. You know what I mean? That's going to be that is a fertile ground for complaints, in my opinion.
So it's a mindset shift from folks being selfish to selfless around really trying to serve someone and not seeing them as a potential conversion or a dollar sign, but seeing them as an actual real person.
And I think it's hard to do that because even in our business, we tend to use, terms like leads, prospects. And I think Robby hit it head on. These are people with feelings, with kids, with life, with death. You got to get into that world somehow.
So that's a good segue. I want to ask you, Robby, one of the things that you've said, I heard we were on a webinar a couple of years ago, I think, and at this point, and you said this line. It was something like, when you're talking to people, when you're talking to someone, if they're looking to make a move, they are either 50% of them are going through an incredible life experience, a new birth, getting married, a new job, something like this. 50% of them, you said, are going through hell. They are losing their job. They're getting divorced. They've had a death. And you're dealing with real people with real emotions, as you said, buddy. I'm curious, as we come up to the holiday season, does that accentuate any differently, say, in December than it does any other time of the year?
I would say it's just pretty consistent. For us, it's routinely, like you said, 50%. And obviously that's a rough number of people are buying for those exciting, positive reasons. And the other 50% is negative. And just to kind of framework it for people, I call them the 5 Ds if they want to write them down. It's death, debt, divorce, disaster, disease, right? Disease being very prevalent when COVID happened, people losing family members, whatever it may be. And that's just some of them, right? There's way more, a ton of other things, but it proves the point. I think what we've generally seen is maybe some of these things go up towards the end of the years. Divorces are being finalized, things like that. It's really weird how humans use mental markers to make decisions. It's why there's a lot of studies on how 29-year-olds are a heck of a lot more likely to get divorced than 27-year-olds, because new chapter, right? Just like a new year. So decisions like that are made. But I would just say generally, for us, we're always trying to have those conversations. And I just want to actually circle back to something that Buddy said, because it's really brilliant. He talked about how new agents really struggle to let go of that attachment of, I have to make a sale. And, it's spot on, because you're so desperate for money. Like, you're like, man, where am I going to pay my bills? To be very, very frank, it's why at our real estate business in Fargo, one of the biggest pivots that we ended up making was we have really adopted a showing partner model where we don't hire new agents typically. We bring people in as showing partners, and they come in and they get paired with our top agents because they come in. If you just come into the industry, right? Think about the model in real estate for the most part. It's you come in and you don't make any money for 6, 12 months, which if you really think about it logically is quite silly. And the only way you can do that is, one, you're really irresponsible. No offense, real estate agents, but that's a lot of us. I was one of them. 2, you have a sugar mama or sugar daddy, which how much drive does somebody have if they have a sugar mama or sugar daddy? Or 3, they're really responsible and they have 6 to 12 months of savings, which is no one, almost ever. So really what it comes down to is, for us, that's why we started going down the showing partner model, was because it really took that piece, that pain point you brought up, buddy, of people in our business don't have to go through that pain anymore. They get paid a base salary. They're working with a really great agent. And then for us, of course, we also use the ISA model. So those are the 2 big things that our business is kind of known for. Hatch Realty itself, which is showing partner, and the ISAs. And we pay our ISAs a base salary. And simply by doing that, the conversations have so much less desperation. And because of that, there's so much more clarity being sought as instead of us trying to sell. And I have one simple thing I believe, it's that people don't want to be sold. They want to be heard, understood, and valued. And, you know, another thing that Buddy said that I just wrote down that was so brilliant, trick bait. I love that. Buddy, I'm stealing that from you. Hopefully you don't mind. Trick bait.
I'm sure I'll borrow you somewhere.
Yeah, it's so good. Because people are trying to trick someone into doing something. And that actually, I don't think works really well. There's more accountability measures than ever before, right? Reviews, people can drag you through the mud. They can post about you on Facebook and tear you down. It's what Warren Buffett talks about, where you can build a business for 75 years and it can disappear like that. So if you're treating people poorly, pushing, selling, and manipulating people, which is kind of the common mantra with a lot of real estate people, I think you're actually setting yourself up for failure. Rather, what we simply believe in is finding that truth, being that truth teller, and helping someone make the best decision. And because that's our North Star, I think we're able to earn trust more quickly. We're able to be heard more often because we've heard them first. And I think that's where a lot of people have gone wrong, is leads don't care about us. Let's just name it. They don't care about you. They don't care about your stats. They don't care about your credentials. What they care about is one simple thing: themselves. Here's why I know that is, you all do the same thing when you walk into a dealership, into a Costco, anywhere you go. The number one thing you care about throughout this transaction is yourself. It's the number one thing. And far too many of us think that it's all about what you're going to say to that person that matters. I don't think so. It's about how good are you not at selling yourself, but how good are you at selling yourself on them that matters. And so many people don't do it.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Buddy?
Well, I think I like the North Star reference. I think my biggest North Star for agents trying to make that conversion, we do a similar model. We don't call them showing agents. We do an agent in training for 90 days where we pay them. And they're kind of quasi ISA, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is we got to change the mindset, because the mindset is, as for an agent, whoever it is, however you're getting paid, you want to jam somebody else into your time. That's just an innate thing. You're wanting to jam you, Robert, into my time frame of, are you buying in the next, even like our categorization, A, B, C, do you buy in the next 60 days, next 90 days? We're putting all of these terms on it instead of listening and moving into their time frame. And they hear that, whether they hear it overtly or subliminally, they can hear the puke that comes out of agent's mouth or any salesperson's mouth when they're not listening and they're trying to jam them in, like, well, when are you thinking about? Are you thinking about this? Are you thinking about that? Is that something you like? I mean, all the scripts that used to work just don't work today. Okay. I just think that you have to connect with people. And the first thing you got to give up is control of the timeline, in my opinion.
Control the timeline. Because if you can put somebody in a category, then you can start, just logic treeing them, in various things, as opposed to seeing them as a person with a situation, with experiences, with other things going on in their lives. I'm curious how, Buddy, I know that you just did a Pi Day. It looked a little bit different last year, right? But this year you had a little bit more like in-person interaction, right?
We did.
Yeah.
And one thing that we're seeing in our world is people are a lot more receptive to in-person and seeing people, because we're naturally people that want to see people. So, whereas before everybody was walking on eggs, do I schedule an appointment? Do I get in front of them? until somebody tells you they don't want to meet with you, I think you need to be closing for coming in the office, going to the coffee shop, doing whatever, meeting at a park, whatever, versus the other way now. You know, I mean, we're getting back to the point where we have to connect with people. We can't do it everything scaled and everything automated.
Yeah. And so I'm curious, as you're thinking about things that you guys are again, just to contextualize ourselves a little bit, which is worth doing coming up on the holidays. What are you, buddy? What's your team in Wilmington, North Carolina doing to prepare to make connections as we end Q4 and get ready for Q1?
I mean, reaching out in a simple, make a phone call and wish somebody happy holidays. It's as simple as that in a lot of cases, instead of, hey, I'm just following up with whatever, because they don't remember your last call. You have notes. You have all the cheat sheets. You remember everything you said. You can listen to the recording. They don't have that luxury because they don't even remember you unless you made a really good impact and was the nicest of the 20 people that were hammering. So I think that be kind, have conversations. We're really on a kick now with getting something physical in front of people, like note cards, getting at it. And the reason is we have a lot of relocation for retirement. And older people tend to rely on things physical more than electronic. So we're still on the kick of trying to do everything we can to get something in their hands, because whoever gets it in their hands first when it's a relocation, especially retirement age, wins that day typically. And we've watched big developments that spend millions of dollars a year do that by overnighting stuff, that are always going to these relocation shows in New York and whatnot. They've been doing it for years, and, we need to do that. And it doesn't take a lot of effort, but it takes effort that is not easy to scale. It takes human involvement. You can't just turn on an action plan.
So let me kind of move toward that. I know, Robby, with Hatch Coaching, I mean, one of the services you provide beyond your coaching services are action plans, right? And a lead management system with tags and smart filters and even an A, B, and C, right? There's some kind of framework like that. And I heard Buddy, say, you can't just put them in categories, but there are categories, right? And there are management systems. And I'm curious how, Robby, I'll start with you. How do you balance that tension of, basically organizing your business while also being able to make real connections and being curious and these types of things?
So really, really good question. And I actually agree with Buddy. And I think we have to talk about two different groups of people. We got to talk about, well, maybe three different groups. We need to be talking about new leads that we have not contacted, right? Leads we've contacted that we're following up with in some way, shape, or form based off the conversations we've had. And then we got to talk about our past clients and our sphere of influence, because really, you should be chasing all of them differently, right? Is really what I believe. A one size fits all. And I think that's where everybody's going wrong. I think AI, here's what I'll tell you. With your past clients, friends, family, you shouldn't be automating almost anything to them. Now, what we give people is things that remind people to reach out. If you all want to take some value from today, we do Pi Day as well. We had 2,100 people. We had the biggest Pi Day order in the country from Costco at Hatch Realty to 2,100 people between Fargo and our expansion markets. And again, the only company we butt heads with is Amazon. They're the only people that beat us, but we beat them this year. So we're proud of it. We do that every Pi Day. We do pictures with Santa traditionally. I think giving people value and getting face-to-face with, like Buddy said, is a must, especially for your past clients, friends, or family. Invite your leads to partake in it. Why are you only doing it for past clients? Do it for everybody. It'll be the best $6 you spend at Costco. And one of my favorite stories about this is, it's kind of stupid. I'm just going to name this. How stupid it is that people come to our office, drive to our office, pick it up. They drive 10, 15 minutes out of the way to get something they could have got at Costco the prior weekend. But people do it by the thousands. And here's why. Here's what normally happens in real estate. Somebody works with an agent. They buy a home. They get the keys. And they hear nothing. And far too many people in here, it's funny because a lot of people come to me to convert more leads. My number one advice is Go focus on your past clients. That's the first place you should be killing it before you ever buy internet leads, is kill it with your past clients in your sphere of influence, right? You should be making sure that you're routinely following up with people. Here's some simple hacks you can take from, again, we give our system users this, but y'all can steal it. We do two client events per year. Pi Day, and here's what we do for every client event. Invite, remind, thank them for coming, or say, hey, we missed you on Pi Day. 3 touches, right? Here's why I love it. It eliminates the excuse of your agents of, I don't know who to reach out to. Reach out to your mom, man, right? Or text your ex-girlfriend. I don't know. Find people, coworkers, your past clients. And then we do another event. We do date night. Date night we do in February, so it's spaced out by about 3 months. On date night, we give out a pizza from either Costco or Papa Murphy's, and a bottle of wine or 6-pack of beer or 2-liter of soda. Here's some 2 little hacks for you when it comes to client events. Make it universal, make it quick. All right, that's how you're going to get the most amount of people to show up. Make that at least an option. Some people will stick around, have longer conversations. And then third big thing, little hack for you is do good, right? Ask people to bring non-perishables or clothing items or toiletries for your local shelters, right? We do it every single time. It's a huge win for us, our team, the community. So that's 6 touches right there, right? Invite, remind people to come, and thank for every single event. And sometimes you have to invite many times. We also recommend reaching out on the house anniversary and birth date, right? Show people love. Take that and reach out. More personal, the better. Handwritten cards. Here's what I'll say. Don't post on people's Facebook wall. Stop wasting your time. Robert, buddy, can you name one person who posts on your Facebook wall? Probably not. Right?
On my birthday.
On your birthday. Yep. You don't know. You have no clue. You don't. That's just too much, and you don't care. And then the final things that we do is we do quarterly touches. Again, manual touches. We put them in our system to remind us to do it. And here's the simplest thing. I stole this from Eric Hatch. Take what's online, Facebook, Instagram, take it offline. Go literally when that quarterly thing pops up, go creep on their Facebook, see what's going on in their life, and send them a message and show them some love. Call them, text them, reach out. I don't think calling people we know and love in our circle, one of the best things we can do. So that's just some, to answer your question, Robert. Past clients, don't automate it, right? You have to do the freaking work, friends. And the data shows it's well worth it.
But you can't. Yeah, keep going, Robby. Keep going.
Okay, so the second place is follow-ups, right? And we're going to go to that. Well, we'll do that last. Let's talk about new leads. The whole point of our automation systems is very, very simple. It's to start a conversation. That's simple. Like the point of everything we do, our plans, is to get somebody to respond in a manner that doesn't say stop or go screw yourself. It's either now is just kind of looking for fun, or they're looking to make a move, or I'm checking things out. That's the whole point of it. From there, guess who has to carry on the conversation? You, the human being, the expert. Right? AI is good, right? I'm a big fan of structurally, but no offense, it's nowhere near as Buddy or I or one of my agents or ISAs responding. Nowhere near as good as an authentic, empathetic human being. Now, where things have gotten really interesting is I used to sit here and tell people that you can't automate follow-ups to your people. I used to be the person that sat there. I was one like, there's no way you can automate follow-ups to people that you spoke to 6 months ago, because I thought it would have to be personalized. I was wrong. One big thing, and I know, Robert, you've kind of seen this, is what we're using is automated messages, text and voicemail drops to follow up based off the cadence that we've discussed with the lead prior. About 80% of our follow-ups are automated, is what we call them. So literally what we're doing is using automated plans. Our users are pretty familiar with this. And it uses a combination of those voicemail drops and text messages that follow up on a customized cadence based off of whatever we've talked about. And it feels like to the lead, I just called, left a voicemail, and texted them. And it actually elicits higher response rates than when we were calling our follow-ups, because it's consistent. We don't get tired. So we've automated that. 20% of our follow-ups go into follow-up buckets. We just do them A, B, C, D to organize priority. So long story short, to do that, I think you have to treat leads differently. You have to treat them differently based off the lead behavior, where they've been. And if somebody comes back to your website, right, and they're looking at homes again, that throws out something maybe they told you 6 months ago. So I think it's always changing. We, yes, automate a lot, but it's really automating the mundane things that you do over and over and over again. So you can engage in the thing that matters most, which is you having conversation. Even if that follow-up goes out, people are calling you back or texting you back, and that's now on you to carry on that conversation. So, and
just that first point around don't automate your sphere. There's I think a balance you can strike around, especially with those birthdays and home anniversaries. Just to kind of plug this, the Sierra Automations feature, which both of you have seen, that's releasing on Tuesday, December 7th, a few days from now, will have, from the first version of it, lead, birthday, home anniversary in X days. So however far out you need that reminder, you know, and you can add conditions like tag equals SOI or status equals close or whatever you want to do to be able to then, you know, assign a task or add a note, which would email out to somebody to do something, right? Be sure to, you know, call this person or check up on them or look at their Facebook page and reach out, make a phone call, these types of things. Buddy, I'm curious what you think about that kind of that triage that Robby presented.
I think it's dead on. I mean, I don't think there's any question about it. I mean, there's different conversations you have with each one of them. I think you could probably segment on down even more by timeline for the follow-ups. But like Robby said, I mean, what they tell you today is not necessarily the case tomorrow. And, you know, when somebody says we don't need to talk again until, you know, 6 months, you know, our rule of thumb, cut it in half. But I think that what I think that the task function in action plans is the most underutilized thing in Sierra for a lot of agents, because for the SOI, for the past customers, for the high interest people, that's where I look forward to the automation throwing off tasks for agents to do something, because I don't need to remind an agent to send an email or send a text, because we can automate that. I need them to reach out in a real way or do something, okay, that isn't really scalable, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So switching gears a little bit, just thinking about mastering the lead conversation, our topic for today. I'm curious, you know, how each of you approach that. You know, both of you are generating leads online. How do you all approach that initial conversation? You text, you call, you email, you set a plan. Like, what are you doing? How do you triage them?
Yeah, so buddy, I'll go first here real quick. So it really depends on the lead, to be very, very frank. And for me, it depends on the lead source, because lead source is very indicative of how high are they raising their hands. So for example, if someone's a Zillow lead, they raise their hand and said, hey, I want information. If somebody has reached out to your website saying, hey, I want to list my home with you, they're literally screaming from the rooftops, right? And then you've got things that are lower. Pay-per-click, somebody was forced to register after searching homes on Google or Bing, the rare opportunity, but they were forced to register after looking at 3 homes for most of us on a Sierra site or something like that. Right. That person's hand is nowhere near as high as a Zillow, right? Their intent is not as high. I'm not saying it's bad, it's just different. So what we've been doing, we've done 2 PhD assisted experiments, and we actually haven't released this yet, but we've done 2 PhD assisted experiments where in Fargo, what we did was we took 2 different groups, call, text, email versus just text and email with pay-per-click leads only. This has nothing to do with any other lead source, just pay-per-click leads. And then we did it in Denver. And what we found is that calls had negligible impact on contact rates, and if anything, had led to a lower contact rate. Now, it's really interesting, right? You would naturally assume if you're texting and emailing in both the exact same messages and layering in phone calls, you would assume, well, you'd have higher contact rates. The problem with that assumption is that what we're seeing in today's day and age is that people are extremely turned off or filtering out or frustrated with random phone calls. And we just have to wake up to that. And With a PPC lead, somebody who hasn't raised their hand, they're not expecting a call, nor do they desire that call. With a Zillow lead, they're expecting it, right? It's been teed up, or they've live transferred you, or Realtor.com, again, they're expecting it because they've raised their hand. And what we did was we just looked at the numbers. And so what we found was phone calls to a new pay-per-click lead didn't help. It actually hurt. And a lot of people are like, Robby, you're crazy. But the data doesn't lie. What I will say is this. I think it really depends on the market you're in. It depends on the demographics of your market. For example, if I went down to Naples, Florida, it's going to be a much different outcome here compared to Fargo. Fargo is a very young city. We attract a lot of young people throughout the upper Midwest, the Plains, and people come here from all the small towns in basically western Minnesota, and then throughout North Dakota and northern South Dakota. Denver, of course, I don't think there's a more young city in the country, right? They're all young hippie kids as a joke, but it's a very, very young city as a whole. So I'm not here saying don't call your leads. Please don't hear that. Some people hear me say that. What I'm saying is we ran tests, split tested. It's really not that hard, especially with Sierra routing rules, which are the best in the game. Yes, shameful plug for you guys. You can split things in different groups. And what we found was that there was no value added. There was actually it was for us a waste of time, and it led to us having lower contact and conversion rates. So we are only texting and emailing our new pay-per-click leads. Everything else we are calling as well. So
that's good. And buddy, I know that you're an advocate of the phone call. So Robby had said, don't hear him say, don't make phone calls, that it depends on your demographic. I think you find success with bringing in new agents and getting them on the phone, if for no other reason than overcoming the psychological, just blocker of I can't be rejected. I'm awkward on the phone or whatever. That's one of the things, the hurdles that you just force new folks through, right?
I mean, we do. We do it different. I mean, we've tried it 1,000 ways, and I mean, what we say today, just like the customer's intent, may be different tomorrow with people changing. But I will say, I mean, I think that the biggest thing for us is we take a look: is it a local lead, by the IP, or is it not? I want my agents calling the local ones because there's a chance they're a seller. And too many times you jump on the phone with them and they're saying, hey, you were just on my site. When reality is sometimes that first buyer inquiry is a test seller. Does that make sense? And they're going to remember who it is that was a little more aggressive. Now that can push off some people. It's a personality thing, but we believe in, our automation doesn't even kick in until day 2. So, because then it's more of a catch to catch the ones that my agents aren't calling back, because, agents, they'll call one time and, a stab and go all the time. And they won't do the follow-up when we know it takes 7, 8, 10 calls, whatever, to get them. So I'm probably more old school than Robby. And again, it may be demographic difference. I mean, our people tend to be older and they expect a phone call. I mean, not necessarily when they're forced to register, but I just, we have good luck with PPC and organic, really good luck with it as compared to, social media, clickbait and stuff like that, because they are typing in a defined search term to come up under. It's not a matter, I clicked this picture just to check this house out. They actually typed in Wilmington NC real estate. So there is something going on in their head. I don't want somebody else. It's kind of like a listing appointment. I want to get something in their hands up front, because I don't want somebody else just doing a great job and I never get a chance.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I just want to just pause for just a moment, but just for anybody who's out there who's wanting to build a team or is working with some folks, just real quick, some tips to get people to overcome the fear of phone if they do have it. What do you do, buddy? How do you coach them through it?
I mean, sometimes it's not, we coach them through it by doing it, and we do it with them. I mean, I'm not too big to get on the call and do it with them. We want them to hear it and shadow for a day or two before they get on it. And then another thing we do is we have them call through and update addresses of our past customers in sphere of influence. Those are easy. Those are layups. Nobody's going to get upset. Buddy asked me to give you a call, or Robert asked me to give you a call. You got to get them in the habit of doing it. But there is some people that just will not, and it's just not made to do it. And they're not going to ever, deal with that.
So, Robby, when you're dealing with, when you're talking about text messages to engage, what are some of the, because we've talked about not manipulating, right? So not, one of the things, and I, know if people use this and they find that it's effective, I'm not trying to discount it or anything, but I have seen before someone say what they find really successful is a text that says, "Is this Robby? Question mark. Is this Buddy?" And then that, we'll get a response, but it's not necessarily the most forthcoming about what you're doing as a starter, right? I'm curious, what kind of approach do you take to, it might be automated, but you are trying to treat someone as a real person. So you're not wanting to manipulate, you're wanting to engage as a person. What kinds of text messages do you find are most effective to engage?
So I want to add to something that Buddy said earlier, and then I'm going to answer your question if you're cool with that.
Of course.
So we do call leads as well, just to be very clear. We just start calling them at day 14. That's where we've seen layering the calls comes into play. And actually, to layer into how do we onboard people to overcome I call it call reluctance, right? When we hire ISAs, when they join our team, we believe in our world, everything is earned and nothing is given. So the first thing that we do is you only actually call the oldest and crappiest leads in our database. That's the only place you get access to. And you have to earn the right to graduate out of there, not through time, not through calls made, but through follow-ups created and appointments set. And as Buddy said, sometimes it becomes very apparent that someone's not going to graduate. And really you start to see the victor or victim mentality come out. Victors find a way. Victims start casting blame and say, all these leads are crap, there's nothing here. And that's just simply not true. There's opportunities in almost any list. It's, are you viewing it as an opportunity in your mind? Are you asking the question? So just wanted to layer that in of how we help people. I also believe training always comes down to three things. Watch me, watch you, go do. Meaning they need to watch you do it. Number two, you watch them do it and give feedback, honest, truthful feedback, and then they can go and do. Where most people fail in training is they go, hey, watch me do it. All right, go and do it now, have fun. And then 6 months later, the person fails out and you're mad at them when you should be mad at yourself. So wanted to drop that in there. Text to engage. I'll be very, very, very frank. I think people overthink texting. All right, texting a lead is no different than talking on the phone. It truly is not. It's just a different medium. Now, is it a little more difficult to read emotion? Yes. Can you mirror match in texting? Yes. Can you go deep in texting? Yes. Millennials and Gen Zers would prefer it. They don't want to talk to you on the phone. They don't like it. They are more comfortable texting you about their divorce and talking about it. Facts. Go talk to kids.
Interesting.
So this is the world, right? People like overcomplicate it. And what I literally teach people to do is take the things that you would do on the phone and ask the same questions in text messages. So for us, when we call leads, I call and say, hey, buddy, saw that you were checking out some homes on one of our websites. I just wanted to reach out to see if you're just looking for fun or to see if you plan on potentially making a move in the future. And it standardizes the response. Almost always they say, I was just looking for fun, or they say, I was looking to make a move, which we say move because it can be buyer or seller. To Buddy's point, your best source of seller leads, I almost guarantee you, is buyer PPC leads. Thank you, Sierra. I love you guys. And we see that's our best lead source, hands down, Buddy. Probably just like you. PPC through Sierra, best one out there. I love it. So
shout out to the team. Yeah.
Shout out to the Sierra squad.
Colin and Crystal and the rest. Yep.
Yep. Love you guys. Anyway, so for us, our first text is almost always remarkably similar. Now, here's what's unique about text. This is where a lot of people get thrown is, oh my God, I sent somebody a text and they didn't text me back. Okay. We get really dramatic about it. We're like, oh God, they don't love me. They don't like me. It reminds me of a 14-year-old who's texting his girlfriend, or used to I used to jokingly tell people, like, the best way to get used to texting leads is just go join a chat room when you're 14 years old. Hashtag that was my life. AOL chat rooms back in the day. But what it really comes down to is we get so insecure about it. And the reality is the number one reason somebody ghosts you is they forget. Right? Think about this. I accidentally ghost my wife all the time. She's right over there. Don't tell her. Robert, you ghost me, bro. I'm calling you out. Right? Why? Because, dude, you're a human. I ghost you. Why? I'm a human. We have these things called cell phones, which are really computers with a ton. I mean, look, let's look at my phone here. Come on, Papa. I was pressing the wrong side. Look, what are those things called, Robert?
That's a lot of notifications.
Thank you. What happens if I'm typing up a text and somebody tags me an Instagram post and I'm texting Buddy back, who I've never spoken to?
You distracted.
Instagram post. Sorry, buddy, I love you, but no way, man. Robert, you do it to me. It's just how we work. So the number one reason people ghost you or they don't respond is they simply forgot to respond. The other big thing is you have to attempt things multiple times. So for us, literally sending a text, hey, buddy, I saw that you were checking out some homes on one of our websites. I wanted to see if you're just looking for fun or to see if you plan on making a move sometime soon. 6 minutes later, let me know what you're thinking with thumbs up emoji. It's very simple. We just try to do what your friends would text you if you didn't text back. And then we'll change up the message to the next one is something like, hey, buddy, I wanted to reach out again. Didn't hear back from you. If the ideal home were to get listed tomorrow, is that something you consider viewing or would miss out on that opportunity? And we have a ton of different variants, ones that we go from there. But it's really all about, I just want to hear about you and what you're hoping to do. And then here's my last thing I have to rant on just for a minute. And I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on Buddy and Robert, what you think. I see two main problems with people when it comes to leads. And it happens to be that both of the words start with S's. The S's are like the danger zone for me. Number one is save searches, right? I think save searches are the first place where people put so much time and effort into it and it doesn't sell homes. Secondly, the one that's actually a bigger pain point is we just wait to give people value until we have a showing for them. And I think this is where, Buddy, I heard you say, like, you want to get people in the office, you want to do a consultation. I can't agree more. And actually I have data that shows it. I'm stealing this from Mike Novak, who I know is, very well known in this community. We believe in doing strategy sessions. So the first thing we try to do, if we know somebody, by the way, is motivated enough to buy a home, that we're going to set them up for a safe search, you shouldn't be setting up a safe search. You should be scheduling a strategy session to help them get what they want almost every single time. And it's because what Buddy said earlier, all it takes is one Lego, and next thing you know, they want to buy a home. Any of my parents out there, you know what I'm talking about. That moment you step on the Lego and you're like, dang it, we're done with this. We need to go now. I'm not doing this anymore, right? That's the life. Robert, you've probably done it. I know you got young kids. I do. It's that one trigger moment, right? So for us, what it comes down to is if somebody's good enough to put on a safe search, don't safe search them, strategy session them. And here's how we do it is we find out what they want, what are they running from, and then we literally just name something like, Robert, what I've done to help other first-time buyers like you who felt cramped in their apartment is I've got them connected with one of my agents for a quick strategy session. And the whole point, Robert, is very simple. It's to create a game plan to get you out of that rental and away from those annoying neighbors and into your first home as soon as possible. So all we're doing is we're asking for a strategy session. We're not telling them any details about it. And we're getting face-to-face. And here's the cool data about this. I talked to some Mike Novak 3 years ago now, give or take, which is crazy. And he lives and dies by it. And he has data that shows that his buyers who start with a strategy session are 7.5 times more likely to get their offer accepted than someone who just shows them a home to. So it's in their best benefit. I always ask people this. If you were to, with all your clients or the vast majority of them, sit down for a half an hour or an hour up front, talk about expectations, talk about what's going on in the market, talk and create a game plan to create those expectations, talk about the next steps. Does the level of your service go down, stay the same, or go up? And I think we all know inherently it goes up many levels because you're providing a level of service that far exceeds. So really, the last thing I want to end on, and then I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts, is do differently. Look at what your market does, what the normal is in your real estate market, and stop it almost always. Do differently. You have to stand out by blending in. No one knows who you are. And if you're afraid of like, man, strategy session, consultations, that's not me. All right, you're sounding like the rest of the 90%. So anyways, those are my last parting random thoughts.
What do you think, buddy?
I don't disagree with a lot of what he said. I mean, for us, I guess for me, it's always, I look at it, who am I willing to save as a contact in my phone? I'll give you a perfect example. I was looking to buy a vehicle in March because my daughter was turning 16. So I was giving her my little car. And I filled out a bunch of stuff, and I got a lot of automated stuff from it because the car industry is really good at the automation and the ISP model. They call it a CS something, customer service, or CSRs. But the interesting thing was there was one guy who kept calling or sending me information based on what I actually looked at. And I ended up saving his information out of about 8 or 10 different people. And people at his own firm, actually, his own dealership, because he was the one that gave me what I asked for, number one, which I wanted information. I didn't really want to talk to anybody yet. I wasn't ready for that. I wanted information and availability, things that I couldn't get online. I wanted information online. So who provided me that and did it in a way that was not trickery, or that wasn't a way that was salesy, made the day for me. Now that's me. It might be an age thing because I'm older, but that's the one person out of all of them that actually saved in my phone as a contact.
Yeah, that's interesting because, you know, we might, back to your point about overthinking text messages, Robby, I think overthinking may be sometimes how we engage with people. Just think about yourself when you go through a process like that. Who was helpful to you? Who did you enjoy interacting with? And that might just give you a little bit of a tip or an insight as to what other people are looking for. It's a little kind of rewinding a little bit, but Luis asked a little while ago regarding the task feature. He said, and I think he's referring to Sierra Interactive, can we set up a task that repeats itself, so recurring, in so many days? An example, some task every 3 days or every 8 days. And Anne follows up and says, yes, we do ours through the action plan section in Sierra. It's a traditional plan that you would create and apply to the leads. And I'm curious for you all, you know, in terms of those recurring tasks, you know, how do you all handle, you know,
I've got a horror story I can tell you about recurring tasks.
Okay.
The ones that you just set and forget. Back years ago, the main platform, CRM platform, was Top Producer. Okay. They were kind of the original action plan people, and it was cool. But the interesting thing was, what happened is we set all these automations every 60 days, reach out every 90 days. Well, what happened is fast forward a year or two, and all of a sudden your agents are looking at so many things to do that they ignore them all.
Correct.
It's like when you get 1,000 emails, at some point you're going to be like, delete all, and I'm just going to start over. So I think that those kinds of things, I do tasks. I believe in tasks being done for the situation. And that starts with, Robby said earlier, listening. You know what I'm saying? If somebody says, I'm changing jobs in January and it's October, you need to set a task to call them in December, because you're probably going to forget. I can assure you. And you need to make notes, because they're not going to remember it, but you are if you put notes. So, I mean, it's just basic contact management system. But I think that automating those kind of tasks are tough. Now, we do a lot of automation on tasks with closing plans, you know, new listing plans for staff to make sure that we send things, or after closing plans to make sure that we send this, we send that. We do a lot of that. But as far as relying on that to be your follow-up with new leads or with follow-up leads, I don't think that's a good idea. I think it's a good idea if you were to use it for SOI, to remind yourself to give them a call or send a video or do something every once in a while. But just be careful setting up so much stuff. Like, Robby, when you showed your screen with all those notifications, dude, that would be shut down central for me.
Yeah. Clear all.
I allow very few notifications because I shut it down at some point. And I don't think I'm totally unique.
Well, and I think you're spot on. A couple things that I would just add to that. I believe what you're talking about, buddy, for those that were old school top producers, because that was our first CRM 8 years ago, is the whole infamous 33 touch plan. Remember that thing? It was, everybody used it, and everybody used it.
It works for everybody, no matter where you are or who you are.
100%. And it was utter trash because, as you said, buddy, it said 33 touches a year. Nobody would do any of them. None of them. So you're spot on. I agree with you. The whole point of having tasks is you have to do them. For us, and Anne is actually a friend and kind of in our circle, what it really comes down to is when tasks are created, you get them done. So when we do them, what we do, buddy, and when we use our traditional plans, for us, that's the equivalent of making a task. And then what happens when you check that task off, it automatically creates another one for 3 days later to remind you to do it again. So let's say, buddy, for example, you and I spoke and you told me to call 6 months later, and it's legit. You're not moving because of whatever, you're relocating, whatever the story may be. So I follow up 3 months later, whatever it is, and I have this plan, and I reach out, I call, text, email, right? I do all of it, air, land, and sea. And I don't get a hold of you. I want something to remind me to reach back out to you again. So it's automatically going to create another one for 3 days later. And what we've done, buddy, is when we call things A, B, C, and D, our A plan creates something for 3 days later. Our B plan creates something for 7 days later. C plan is 1 month, and the D plan is 60 days. In other words, you're prioritizing your energy based off of that category of whatever that follow-up was, because we all know that there's some like creme de la creme follow-ups, and then there's some that are, I don't know, for me, milk chocolate, that I don't really care about follow-ups, just like not great ones. So we separate that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I would lean into this question right here, Lee. I'm very familiar with Brian Buffini's stuff. I've done it. I like him. I mean, he's one of the best speakers out there in the industry. Mm-hmm. And he's built an incredible empire. But I will tell you, just keep in mind, his whole Referral Maker software is for past customers and sphere of influence.
Yes.
So you need that. That's where I was talking about, and what Robby was talking about, have these tasks that create new plans, that create new things. But don't let an automated task be your full force of follow-up and new leads and things like that, in my opinion, because it will bury you quickly. If you get 50 new leads a day, fast forward that 30 days, and I don't care who the agent is, they're going to shut down. So, but just remember, Brian Buffini's whole concept is sphere of influence and past customers. Okay. So that's his audience, and that's who that Referral Maker, which is a fine system just for that. It doesn't have any legs otherwise, but it's fine for that if that's your entire business model. And I think that's okay. But we're talking about a different animal, because, Robby, I don't know about you, but maybe 2% of our database is past customers in sphere of influence.
Yeah, it's not the majority of it. A lot of it is paid business.
Not 100% like
correct.
that.
100%. And you need to look at those much differently. We actually don't use any tasks to follow up with any leads that are new leads at all. The only ones that would have tasks would be somebody that we have a follow-up scheduled with for the future, to really alleviate that problem of, I don't want 5 million tasks in my CRM that nobody's doing. That is reckless. It's pointless. So I can't agree with you more on that.
You're going to answer that question, aren't you, buddy, that Luis asked? He says, but
I'm going to try to read it. I don't have my glasses on. I'm sorry. But
that follow-up on past or SOI is important. How can I get this system to do that, and I can save on 2 CRMs instead of 1?
Well, here's the deal. You can do everything that you can do in Referral Maker and more. You can do like market updates, for instance, for your past customers. If they're local, that's an automatic CRM. You want that going out there all the time. That is the most powerful function for seller maintenance that there is, in my opinion. But you can do everything with Referral Maker with Sierra that you can do a Referral Maker. But you cannot do anything hardly that Sierra does in Referral Maker, because it has no dynamic IDX feeds. It doesn't have anything. And you're also never going to get any leverage free leads with organic or things like that, because of the way Sierra indexes everything. I mean, it's just 2 different animals, but you don't need both. We were running Top Producer and Sierra for a long time. And we were also running Basecamp for transactions. And finally, and so we've just finally said, you know what? Our people struggle getting into one platform. How about we just use one platform, even if it's not perfectly defined in it? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And we do the same thing. Just we use Sierra for current clients and past clients. And we have plans in our Hatch system that we've created just as reminders to reach out to your past clients. So, yeah, I think you can do everything and so much more in Sierra. One more little tip, by the way, is do a safe search just for the neighborhood. For people in your neighborhood. So your 25 homes closest to them, people love being nosy neighbors. Love it.
Right.
Little tip for y'all.
Hey, we're coming up on an hour. We've gone fast, and it's been great. I'm curious if you all could give, as a takeaway for everybody watching now and in the future, one piece of encouragement or one challenge that you would have everyone walk away with.
Buddy, you got one?
Is that for us?
Yeah.
My current challenge, and I mentioned it before we went on the air. I mean, personally, as a broker, team leader, whatever you want to call me, my biggest challenge is getting people's head back in the game, because our agents and our staff are worn out from a super busy 18 months without any stop. Now we've seen seasonal plus probably market shift slowdown that we didn't have last year. So getting them back to doing the basics of, here's the deal. You're not going to sell a house to anybody if you don't do one of two things, if not both. Talk to them or see them. It's just not going to happen. So at some point in time, you got to actually do the work and not just hope something happens, because you're going to wake up in January with no deals in the pipeline, no listings coming, and somebody else beat you to the punch. I mean, everything we're doing right now is to try to get anybody thinking about first of the year selling their house, trying to get them to get on paper with us with some kind of offering in December, even if we don't go live until January, because we know that either they're going to do for sale by owner, a friend, or a neighbor, or they're going to talk to another realtor that's going to offer them something that's not real. And so we just want to make sure that we ice anything down that we can possibly ice down. That's always our December mode.
Yeah, for us, it's very, very interesting because our December, January, February gets very slow traditionally because Fargo gets cold and people really shut down. And really, I think we go through more of a trend than other people. And actually, I think I firmly believe this. I think the number one thing that a lot of people need to do after a long year and a half that we've all gone through, we're a market. Most people in most markets haven't had a rest. You didn't get an off season last year. I think you need to go and rest. I think you need to take care of yourself. I think you need to check out and take that vacation to recharge. What I see a lot of people doing right now is they are failing to do that. And when you fail to do that, you can't operate at top efficiency. It's like playing with an injury. You're going to be playing hurt. And I think the biggest thing, again, I'm going to pick on Mike Novak, right? Mike Novak went on like a 14-day trip overseas to recharge because that guy works harder than almost anyone I know. And rest is discipline. You all need to be so disciplined. Right. Resting friends, right? And it's funny, Robert, is we look at the tech companies where they drive hard, right? But you know what they do better than most of us in real estate is they also really prioritize rest. You all need to take care of yourself, come back. There's seasons, there's your off season. Off season for me is always growth season, get better, try new things, practice more. Don't let off the foot pedal. If you're not selling homes right now, that's extra time to lead generate when you come back rested. My favorite example of that was COVID. When COVID broke out, there was two reactions. One was fear, where people stopped. And then there was people like us and Buddy who hammered, get into it, call people, show them love, text them, be in front of people. And there's two types of reactions post-COVID. Those who boomeranged out. That's what happened to Buddy and us, right? Businesses like ours. We slingshot it out. Alongside that were a lot of people like, man, where's the business? The market's so slow. Well, the market was slow because you stopped. So take care of yourself, heal, and do it more consistently, right? You got to be taking care of your mental health and physical health, then get in the game. So those are my last few thoughts.
Well, I'm going to add on to that. I think you're exactly right. And don't do it halfway, because what happens is I'm seeing people kind of work from home, show up a little bit every once in a while, stay on social media, and they fool themselves and say they're working when they're really go rest.
Right.
Like you did, Robert. You and your family went on 2 weeks. Go. Okay.
Yeah.
Go do that 110% for whatever time frame you need. And then come back and put the same 110% in for your family's sake, because I can assure you, first quarter, there's going to be people like Robby's team and our team that is going to absolutely outrun you out of the gate.
It's interesting because to your point there, I mean, you can be fooling yourself into thinking you're resting and you're actually working, kind of. You can fool yourself into thinking that you're working and you're actually resting. Kind of.
Amen.
And you're not intentional about either one, which is the point of the discipline. So in disciplined work, disciplined rest, it's about being intentional and taking control. All right, I just want to close with this question, and then we'll wrap. Luis asks, are those plans available to share with me that you talk about past clients? Robby, how can people find you?
Yeah, so 2 ways. You can just go to hatchcoaching.com. That's probably the easiest way. All of our stuff's on there. Check it out. And then if you want to get a hold of me directly, there's 2 ways. You can message me on Facebook, DM me on Instagram because I'm a millennial and that's how I roll. Or you can Marco Polo me. And here's my phone number. It is 701-388-3651. You can send me a polo. I'm a big fan of Marco Polo. Robert knows all about it.
Yeah, and I'm going to echo that. I mean, if you guys don't have your own content, Luis, and if you don't have plans, I highly recommend reaching out to Hatch. They're a fantastic source. Reach out to them. They've got, what I've learned about when you're trying to learn what to do, use what's plug and play.
Amen.
First. Don't get it and try to rip it off, and don't try to redo it.
Yep.
Just trust it. So yeah, there it is. So
Yep.
yeah, I highly recommend them. I don't work for Hatch.
Nice.
I go to their events when I can, when COVID's not around. But, but I go to everybody's events. I mean, I went to Club Wealth last month. I mean, because I'm anxious to get around people. But what I'm going to say is, if you can't figure it out, don't spend your time trying to figure it out. Get with Robby or get with whoever that's already got it ready to go.
Yep. And that's one of the great benefits of the Sierra Interactive platform is the partner platform, where we're able to bring in partners like Hatch Coaching, like so many others, that you can then rely on and lean into the expertise, the thinking, the systems thinking, the work that other people like Robby have done to be able to help you manage your leads more effectively. All right. Well, thank you so much, Buddy and Robby. It's been great being with you. And for all of y'all who joined us today, we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.
Sounds good. Thanks, buddy. Thanks, Robert.